you. Are you going? Yes, you are. 5 seconds in. Not anymore. So I gotta be watching the clock, but I kind of sort of can't because I know it's loud and probably annoying sometimes. I moved my little cutesy alarm clock, which is always hanging out on my nightstand. I don't know if you appreciate that background noise. So yes, I'm gonna have to watch my phone time clock because I don't want this to be long, and I got things and stuff with the fan going on. So yes, can you see? Yeah. Okay, so take a college class / course with me. I don't know why this video idea came to me, but it just did, and I thought it would be fun. So I want to talk about an English class, a lit class per se, if you really want to get punny over here. So the official name of the class, I'm a nerd and I easily forget things and I have to look. Advanced Research and Literary Analysis. Bunny ears so I don't stutter. But yeah, so I just have some notes to go over and some things and stuff from my class from this first week. The first day was actually, I want to say the 20th, which was this past Monday, and it's been a week starting tomorrow. I'm like really overheated. It's hot in this house, especially upstairs. And I got a sweater on because it's cute and I love sweaters. But anyway, so I don't know. I thought this would be an interesting, fun, possibly fun thing to do. This take a college course with me. So like I said, a lit class. Things are due on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, which is very interesting to me. Usually they got the due dates. Sounds like someone's pregnant. But Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, depends on your course, your instructor, obviously. My instructor this year, or this semester, sounds really cool, really nice, and it's an English class, so that really means a lot to me. I want somebody really good. I'm very passionate about English. That's my minor. It would be my major, but I just feel like I'm supposed to go into elementary ed. Feel really strong about that as well, just very passionate about it too. And this will be like on the side. I want to write on the side, and I think this will be good prep, good practice for me. And just to let you know, I'm still going to do other vids, not just this weekly, once a week type of thing. Throughout the course of this semester, I want to still do my other things and stuff as well, so you might be seeing like 2, if not more, videos from me. So I just want to do this college type of video every Sunday this semester. And I really appreciate school. I'm not the best student. My parents will say I am, especially an online student, a good online student. I do prefer online, and I perform a lot stronger and more like solidly online. It just comes easier to me. A lot of people will say the opposite for themselves. But it will just force me to read and learn, and I need to read more instead of just only write. So I'm trying to work on that. I just write a lot. So a little bit about me. I pour my heart and soul into English classes. Usually the vast majority of the time I'll get a B+, usually an A most of the time. I just really care about them, and as this is my only class this semester, I think I'll really be able to do well. I have things planned. Hopefully a job is coming up, and want that to work out, so yeah. And I have my notes here typed up. I would write them down, just like in a journal or a notebook or something, but I think it might actually be easier to type them up. I would type them up anyway, and I'm a really fast typer, and my handwriting can be really hard to read. So just in the file on my desktop called School Things, English 314, and technically including the icebreaker, like the introduction, the get to know you, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assignments. I'll just be going over the 4. You probably know about me. You might even know me well, per se, through my channel, you know, if you've been here for a while, and the icebreaker is very different, so we don't have to do that. But I have 3 books for the semester for this class. This one is A Short Guide to Writing About Literature. Very exciting. And I decided to purchase, not just rent, these 3 books assigned to the course. And I wanted to do that because I want to refer back to these. I want to look back on this material and review it, reread, bookmark, take new notes, learn from my old notes, and so I decided to buy them. So they're mine now, and it was a surprise to me, a little bit of a shock to get this in the mail. They were all through the mail, through the school site, just because of COVID, and it was an easier process and everything anyway. But it was a surprise to me. I was not expecting this, to see notes and markings and highlightings and pens, whatever, throughout the notebook, especially in the front, so I don't know if they just got lazier as they went. But sniffle, sniffle. I've had like this coldest nose problem for way too long. Not COVID, I swear. But anyway, just very interesting to me. And my dad joked with me about this. He was like, you know, I would usually for like a harder class, and if I read the notes, just like breezed over them before I bought the book, whatever, just to see if the person was smart and if you can learn from them, you know? Not cheat per se, but just, you know. So I kind of appreciate that, and I never really thought to write in a book before. I mean, I've been told that it helps and that it can be fun and a really cool, interesting experience and opportunity, but I've never done that myself, and I might actually start that. I prefer notes on my laptop or on like my hard drive, you know, just recording my thoughts so I can have them forever, like as a journal, and refer back to them and learn from them again, you know. But I'm sorry, my house is really loud. Speaking of classes, got my sister-in-law, my brother's wife downstairs doing homework. She's got a crazy house and whatever, and then we got mom, dad, brother. But anyway, so just very interesting. There are 2 other books. I'll go over those when we go over those in the class. This is week 1. Very long intro, so sorry. So the parable of the, I can never pronounce this, prodigal son, from the scriptures from Luke. This is chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. That's where you can find the story. And I don't know why I'm even doing this series. I just think it could be fun to record, to recount these things in the future, if that makes sense. So you can join me on the journey. You can click out of this if this doesn't interest you, or you find it dull and boring and probably really weird. But anyway, so for this assignment, I always have the instructions on the same page, and then I like copy paste into the text box or the actual like turn-in submission spot. So don't include instructions. But anyway, so read the materials, read Luke 15, those verses, which is this parable, and then you're going to complete A, B, and C. So a summary, and then your interpretation of the parable. So what does the parable teach in your opinion, in your eyes? And then how do you know that your interpretation is valid? So like explain how the literary devices from the parable support your interpretation of the parable. And open book, open note, closed neighbor quit. So let's keep to say. But I'll just go over these 3 paragraphs, my thoughts, and then we'll move on over to the other few assignments. So there are 2 sons to a loving and kind father. This is the summary per se. Keep saying per se, it's fun. One chooses to leave home to live in the world. He finds himself choosing and doing bad things, worldly things, things that cause and bring sadness and depression into his life. The son decides to finally return back home to his father. He feels regret and remorse for his doings, his wrongdoings. Somewhat of a surprise to him, he discovers that his father is excited to see him return back to him, despite the wrong that he has committed and lived with for so long. The other son finds himself angry with the situation, upset with how his brother has returned and was received and welcomed with love and kindness. He tells his father how it is unfair that he has never received such treatment, what with how he has been a good son, a son who has only served his father. He has never been lost himself, so unlike his brother. His father tells him that his brother is being treated this way, and treated with great love and kindness because he had lost himself, but has now been found. And now the interpretation types of paragraphs. The world can be a riotous place, and it can be easy and tempting to find the riotous things. When bad things happen to us, and or we find ourselves living in sin without remembering, thinking, or wanting to repent, what can often happen is a famine in our happiness, spirituality, and testimony. Our loving and kind Heavenly Father will always have compassion on us, when we come back to Him and when we repent because we believe in and trust in the atonement. Sorry, this is like a spiritual class as well. Like all of the classes incorporate some spirituality, some religion, some gospel, some LDS concepts, and if that bothers you, sorry. Just skip or don't watch, if you're offended or anything, don't want to annoy anyone. So, trusting atonement, we will receive the robe. And there's a lot of symbolism in here, which I find just fascinating, very interesting and fun. We will receive the robe. We can live and we can be found even when the world sometimes makes us feel the opposite. This story can tell us a lot of things. This story means a lot of things. 1, sometimes we will feel like the lost son who became found in the end. Sometimes we sin and leave or flee and return to the good and to God. We need to be kind to ourselves because God is kind to us. And 2, sometimes we will feel like the son who did nothing but serve his father. It can be hard to be in this position, and it is easy to feel anger and frustration that we have been trying and another has seemingly not, yet still gets treated well when they finally try to make up for it. We might not want to be their friend because we are angry that they left and chose wrong, but let's be glad that they are back and safe and well again. And now this is, I don't know how to describe this last paragraph. You decide for yourself. Just whatever. Opinion cannot be wrong. I can call another's interpretation of something incorrect. I can find fault and falseness in their opinion. However, opinion and interpretation, especially interpretation of symbolism, cannot be defined, nor matched, nor called incorrect. We can disagree, though we cannot say what opinion is true or valid. I can assume and hope that my interpretation of this parable, after dissecting and digesting its meaning and importance to me personally, is right or valid, but even I may never know. My opinion is always changing, and that is a good and healthy and inspiring thing. My interpretation is based on symbolism. I value symbolism, and perhaps because I value it, my interpretation of symbolism and stories in this parable is thus valid. The way that I have decided to interpret this parable involves imagination and my personal testimony and what just makes sense to me. I can relate this parable to my personal life and my history and the current, and therefore it is opinion and interpretation, and may be valid. So yes, assignment 1. We're just going to move right along and move into this discussion, defining analysis. So with a lot of these assignments, it's a back and forth, you comment, they comment, you comment back, just you and your peers, your little fellow students. So it's a discussion board, a discussion post. I'm not going to read the comments of other people, whatever. Let's see. So for this one, let's see. So define literary analysis, roles of summary and interpretation, and then practicing analysis. So what is the purpose of an analysis? How does an analysis differ from a summary or an interpretation? What roles might summary and interpretation play in an analysis essay? And then you read other postings first, and then in a reply, whatever. Okay, so this will be a little bit longer, I think. However, quite a bit of it is just the copy-paste of the parable, which I just read to you. My thoughts on that. So really, it's just over 1 page, not to scare you. Okay, so defining it. It's important that we know how to dissect and digest material. Those are like my favorite words, dissect, digest. Especially and particularly reading and writing material. This gives a person an opportunity to grow and expand the mind, to change and enhance a perspective and find new opinions and insights. Analyzing can help us to grow and learn. We can even learn better. To learn and know how to do an analysis can help you to gain new information and practice the learning process through progress. I believe this to be the main and major purpose of the literary analysis, to learn new information, to create a new opinion, and to grow altogether. Just to continue, an analysis goes deeper and farther than just a summary or an interpretation. A summary is facts and what something is or how the story goes. Interpretation is different. It is more opinion than not, and it involves creative and personal and individual perspective and symbolism. However, an analysis is much different from both these things. The analysis takes both summary and interpretation and adds something big to it. Research and evidence turn to dissecting and decoding. You are interpreting so deeply that an argument has been created and backed up by the summary and evidence. This is the main and the biggest difference. Now the roles. What roles do/might summary and interpretation play in an analysis essay? For an analysis essay, you want to record or recount the main idea and the main key points of the story or thing you are dissecting. This could be considered the summary. Then the interpretation comes into play. You are then to interpret the information recounted, or interpret the summary. Then, finally, the actual analysis becomes a part of the essay. This is when and where you, the writer, are to create an argument and defend it. Therefore, we now know the rules. And then we go into the parable, and then people commenting on the parable. And thoughts thereof. Okay. Let's see. 34, excuse me. Now, this one will be long-winded, and it's like 8 pages. A lot of it's just notes from chapters 1 through 3, and then I just have like 2 paragraphs to say. So for this one, it was just reading chapter 1, writing about literature, a crash course, and then chapter 2, the writer as reader, reading and responding, and then 3, the grand finale, the reader as writer, drafting and writing. So what are the many different types of writing? What other insights did you gain through this reading? So I'll just go, not interrupt myself, not stop myself, not explain myself, and just go. So, chapter 1, I personally believe in the pleasures of writing and that writing is not in fact hell. So these are like quotes from people and just quotes directly from the text, just things I found really interesting. I want to work on better thoughts regarding my writing. We should be writing for ourselves too. Your opinion will in fact indeed change over time, and even while writing and reading, quarrel with yourself, fight with yourself. What do you want to learn and teach? Teach yourself and others. Be a critic of your own writing and writing style. Writing is rewriting. Improve your writing and get better ideas. What words are you writing or writing with? Skillful ones? Your writing can be worth sharing. An essay is a process, and an outline will be your best friend. Revising can be very satisfying and humbling. Take pleasure in the process of writing and rewriting. You do not write books or stories or poems, but you revise books and stories and poems. Pick a topic that you genuinely like and enjoy and admire. You are always welcome to change your topic. Take your time and have enough time. Proofread, 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 period. Does the writing please or displease you? Ask yourself that question. Look up words and ask yourself why the author used them. Think before you write. Give credit to whom you borrow. Look at the focus of each paragraph. After ideas and brainstorming, you are now in a position to write. You don't have to follow the outline exactly when you are writing. And then from E.M. Forster, I think, how do I know what I think until I see what I say? Write in a spirit of confidence. Follow your instincts. And then a quote, reread and revise the material, preferably after an interval of a few hours or even a day. Revise a hard copy, then revise using the keyboard of a computer. Revisions equal global or local. Ask yourself what your audience will think of that word, line, etc. Put yourself in your reader's shoes. Write in a voice that is natural to you. Author versus editor, you will become an editor in and through this process. Remember MLA writing format / standard. Have others read your work / words, family, friends. Example, take your reader's suggestions into account and make changes if you want. Revise again and again. That's okay. This is not an assignment. This is writing. Teach yourself first, then your readers. Important. Engaging title, essential information in the introduction, thesis in the paper, argument supported with text, evidence / meet audience needs and define terms. Paper is organized. Have I done what the assignment asked me to do? Those are very important in your papers. Chapter 2, some of us will have always wanted to be a writer, and others a reader, and others still something else. Read first, then write. Write in a journal, write in the margins. What effect do you want your words to have on your reader? Begin to write fiction just right. The reader before me, this was a note from them. Why? How can you read that any differently? Set forth your writer meaning. Understand and learn to understand the words in their context. You don't have to always look up every word you don't know as you read. The reference is there for a reason. Writers will never tell us everything, neither will you. Keywords, indeterminacy, gaps, consistency building, look for echoes. Example, message of love, don't know what that means. No one will read your notes, they are yours and up to you, so you get to be free and at ease. Well, I got their notes, so. Write about your imagination alongside the text. Your imagination will be put to work in short stories. Maybe I can develop this idea that anticipation is as much fun as the trip. That's a quote. Peaceful rural life. I liked those words together. For whom am I writing? Imagine your audience. The audience is your collaborator. Decide what you're going to say. Example, sense of purpose. What and who is your aim? Human relationships and time. Interesting things to write about and compare. I always used to call it parody, but it's parody, which is defined a humorous imitation. Misconception, you are not writing for your teacher. When you write, you are the teacher. Example, appealing, interesting, trifling, and or boring. Example, relationship, human time and nature season / growth. Ripening happens in its own due time, with time, over time, season of. Interesting things to write about. Write about season of maturity, the rhythms of life, the fruits of our own growth will be sweet, plump, and beautiful. That's a story in there, from a story. Analyze the analysis. Create a title that interests and invites and informs the reader. You still need to name the author and the written work title, even if you had done so in the title. Summary is different than analysis. Example, thoughtful analysis. Commit to brief quotations. Talk about the writer's, author's point of view. Take the discussion, and that's what it is, deeper and further. Deadliest of conclusions is therefore, and thus we have seen, etc. Draw the reader in, even at the end. How much detail can you include / conclude? Have a special kind of directness for longer papers, examine in greater depth. Focus on more details equals strengthen your analysis. Get inside the story, read closely and carefully. Example, exploration of theme. Let and make the story become even more interesting. Be critical about your own thinking. What is your nature of response to the lit work? Sometimes go against the evidence of the text itself. Sensitive and full interpretation. Be perceptive and accurate in your interpretation of the story. Careful not to overlook. Examine and understand. Coming up. Meaning and interpretation. So that's a few chapters away. Stuff about that. Reading literature gives pleasure, stimulates our minds. Classroom and writing assignments. Love of lit will build and grow. Increase your love of lit. It is lit. That was me. Thinking is made sharper and more complex. So that was chapter 2. Now chapter 3, a quote from Robert Frost. All there is to writing is having ideas. To learn to write is to have ideas. Learn to have ideas. Read with a pen, paper to annotate text. Keep a journal to jot down reflections. Talk with others about the reading and what you just read and your thoughts regarding it. If it's your book, write, highlight, underline, note things in margin, the marginal notes. Write what puzzles you, pleases you, interests you, or displeases and bores you. Rewrite your first responses and see if your ideas have changed, or reread. Think about writing, think about this often, see how it relates to the whole. Love equals the unsolved mystery of joy that kills. That's from another story. I liked those words together. Brainstorming is let one thought lead to another. Delete jottings and connect others. Just get going. Now another quote, title speaks of an hour and story covers an hour, but maybe takes 5 minutes to read. Losing my voice and gotta wrap this up soon. Free writing versus focused directed free writing. What is worth puzzling over? Write that. Write at length, write non-stop for perhaps 5 to 10 minutes. Don't worry about the niceties of it. Do not evaluate. Just write right now. Steady stream of writing with whatever associations come to mind. If you pause only to look back at the text and continue your thoughts and thought process. Like when you search for more details or for a quotation to add on to that will help them to answer their questions. Free writing session. Make an outline, then begin a draft. Story, death of husband, free, body and soul. Free, free, free. I liked that, a part of the story. Try to find what the summary should sound like. And then we got 2, I believe it's 2, just paragraphs. Let me see what time I'm at. 24. Sure we are. Hello. Okay. So, one of the bigger types of writing is free writing. Something new to me is the concept and practice of something called focused/directed free writing. For the specific name is new to me, or the specific name is new to me. I like the idea, and I practice this method often when I free write and work on my own personal stories and books. That is, writing non-stop for 5 to 10 minutes. I find this to be a very healthy and productive practice. This is a very positive and healthy practice, and it allows for better writing and stronger, more creative thinking. I am an avid writer. Free writing helps me to better understand a text. I get to dissect a piece of writing and use my imagination and perspective, and that is a very unique experience and opportunity I, as a writer, get to enjoy. To better and more understand a text, one must learn how to dissect it, to see the words and read the words and take those words and add in your own thoughts and words. Writing is very, very important to understanding literature. Literature is writing, and writing can be literature. To read, you must know how to read. To write, you must know how to read. It is helpful to know how to read and write, we know that. I will be bold and say this: to write, you must know how to read literature. To read literature, you must know how to write. Literature is meant to be dissected and thought about and pondered about. We can greatly learn and grow from it. It can help us with our imagination and perspective and opinions, and it can help us with our writing. Probably my favorite insight inspired from the readings, gonna talk fast now, this week is the concept where you think about writing. I felt that this thought was mentioned several times throughout the reading. I want to write books, and I'm constantly writing and always working on one of my story ideas. Thinking about writing is a very neat, interesting concept. Thinking about writing. Some people say, think before you speak. Sometimes we think before we write. Many writers do, most in fact. We as writers get a story idea, get some form of inspiration that must be turned into words on paper. We think, then turn it into writing, and ultimately a story comes to life. However, it can be fun, and I will do this sometimes when feeling bored, uninspired, or very inspired, to look at a blank page, be it on computer or paper on table, and just write. You let the words flow. This is a unique form of free writing, and it can be a fun one. There is seemingly no pondering previous to the act of writing. The writing just comes, and the thought comes after. Think about writing, and sometimes, don't. So yes, that was what I wanted to say. That was what I wanted to share and talk about. Let me see what time we're at. Okay, so I will end it here, and I will continue more school, class, work, talk about whatever in the future next Sunday. So get excited. Bye. Get A's in school.